Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. The title of this video is probably somewhat confusing to those who watch this channel with any regularity, but I'll tell you why I'm naming it this. I was watching an episode of 1883. It's a show that's come out in the United States. I think it's made by a guy named Taylor Sheridan, who's a great writer, by the way. And it's sort of in this Yellowstone universe. I thought it was great because, look, I'm from Kansas originally. Kansas history is fascinating to me. I've read a lot about Kansas history over the years. My family's been in Kansas for 100-odd over years, 150 years, 160 years now. I can't remember how many at this point when the first guy got there. They've been there a while. Let's just say my family's been there a while. And I was watching the show 1883, and there's this great moment. There's a ton of great moments in this, very poignant, very insightful. But there's a scene where they're putting together a wagon train, and it's a wagon train filled with primarily European immigrants who had really no experience either with America, not to say nothing of the frontier. You know, I mean, East Coast, everything east of the Mississippi in 1883, it was pretty wild too. You know, compared to Europe, for example, it was not just completely settled. You know, I mean, by that point it was fairly well settled, but not completely. You know, even on the eastern side of the Mississippi. You know, on the western side of the Mississippi, between roughly, call it Texas, Kansas, western border, all the way out to California, man, that was still the Wild West, as they show in that film, in that series. And I really can't urge folks enough who are watching this to go check that out. But there's a line in that, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought it was hilarious to begin with, but then I got to thinking about it. It's really, really insightful and poignant. There's a scene where Sam Elliott's character is recruiting guys for this wagon train. He's recruiting cowboys, basically, folks that know the West, know the range, have ridden the trail, sort of know what they're about when it comes to a journey of a wagon train going out. Their mission is to get to Oregon. And, you know, this one guy that he's sort of interviewing for this job, he says, you know, I got to be honest with you, I've been running cattle up to Omaha for 15 years, and I've seen some of these immigrant wagon trains, and it's like these SOBs are trying to die, you know, and I can't, I'm not doing justice to the line, but man, is that not insightful? And the reason I bring this up, there's another scene in that, I believe that same episode, where Sam Elliott basically calls out these immigrants and says, you have no skills, and you're just expecting to get on this wagon train and to just sort of be whisked to the American West. That's a foolish thing to think, that can just happen. I'm not calling anybody foolish or anything. I'm not saying anybody's going to die. Not my point. My point is the underlying thesis, which sort of underlies both of these great quotes, which is, if you're looking to come move, if you're looking to be an expat, if you're looking to engage in the expat lifestyle, if you're living in the United States, for example, and you're looking to come to Thailand, and you've been here a couple of times, do your research. Figure out what it means to live here. Because, yeah, it's not like the wagon train by any stretch of the imagination, but that line is really on point, because those folks did not do the real research. Now, back then, 1883, how do you do the research? I mean, you probably could, reading newspapers or something and figuring out exactly what was going on. But at the same time, it would have been more difficult. No internet, no telephones, none of that good stuff. Or I think they had telephones and radio by then, but it was in its early days. But, and more importantly, and not to belabor the point, it was more about folks not understanding what they were getting into. And when you're going to look to expatriate, if you're looking to come here to Thailand or greater Southeast Asia for that matter, do your research, do your homework. You know, don't just jump up and make a move kind of fast. And we see this a lot with new guys that come here. Immediately off the plane, they expect services and things like that to be very much akin to America. No, or the West. It's not going to be that way. In some ways it might, but in many others it won't. It's going to be different. So Again, not saying anybody's going to die, not saying anybody's making a mistake, but if you're coming out to Asia, do your research.